Welcome back, everyone, to the Alienware Analyst Desk for HRX 2018, powered by INAP. This is the Smite World Championship Semifinals, and we're going to be looking at eUnited versus Obey. Joining me is Taco and Aurora. Man, how are you guys doing? And especially Roar, because I got to be here with you. How did you enjoy that last matchup?
Man, that last set was awesome. 5 games, almost a reverse sweep. Kind of reminded me of myself and Eager last year. We were down 2-0. And then we won the next 2, and then we lost in game 5.
That's
so,
what Hinduman was
flashback.
saying. Out of all best of 5s, when there is a 2-0 lead, that there's never been a reverse sweep. And I thought Energy could have had it, but unfortunately, they could not. And I mean, it's still an intense game here. We got the finals going on tomorrow. And if you guys can't be here for the finals tomorrow, do not worry, because all across America, there's going to be theater sponsored by Coke, Sunday, January 7th for a viewing party by Coke Esports. Tickets on sale now at SmiteFinals2018.com. eUnited versus Obey Alliance. It's the NA-EU matchup. eUnited is the last NA hope.
There is one primary reason why I am anticipating this matchup so much, and Aurora and I were briefly discussing it before this segment even. PolarBearMike finally has the chance to break this curse.
Yeah, so back at Super Regionals 2 years ago in 2016 for HRX 2017, PBM, after they won a game against Europe in the gauntlet, he shouted, he got up out of his chair, he went, EU sucks, like as loud as he possibly could. And ever since then, North America has not beat Europe in a series. So he has a chance to break the curse in this set, and he could break it himself.
It's kind of ironic that his name is also, or the name of the team is eUnited.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like it's a European team.
Maybe a little bit of foreshadowing as to the outcome of this, but it's still hard to call it any direction. These two teams have been very strong in their respective regions, and eUnited, especially coming in as the first seed from North America, they have been putting on phenomenal performances all throughout Season 4.
Yeah, we saw both first seeds go up against international teams yesterday, and it actually looked like Nocturnes could have potentially got a game over Rival, which allowed us to kind of be hesitant over voting for Rival today, but obviously with that 5th game, they are here to win. I'm wondering if we're going to see the same thing with eUnited, because they looked even better against Black Dragons. You know what? Let's actually take a quick look of eUnited's roster.
eUnited. PandaCat. PolarBearMike. Venenu. Screammmmm. Benji.
For being North America's last hope, I didn't really hear too much chanting in the North American audience.
It's kind of taken aback by surprise. Also, some people waiting for the games to actually start, grabbing some of those Coke Theater snacks and whatnot. But I think the big thing here as well for eUnited is I want to see what they're willing to bring to the table and what kind of risks they're looking to take. They know that they have to put it all on the line against Obey here today.
Yeah, I also feel like we got a lot of Obey fans in the audience, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's been so many. I think it's probably predominantly Rival and Obey fans.
Yeah.
It's just surprising because it's a North American area, but it's hard to not want to be hyped for watching all these European teams when they've played so expertly throughout the season.
I mean, there was definitely cheers out there, especially for PolarBearMike and Benji, who was on Enemy Season 2, who actually made it to the world scene. How does eUnited fare as far as experience goes? Because Obey has so much experience.
There could be a couple of red flags here with eUnited's performance, because leading up to Worlds, they were actually scrimming pretty heavily with Luminosity. I don't think it was much of a secret, at least not in the North American side of things. So for them to watch Energy kind of dismantle Luminosity, that's got to be rough, because you know that's who we were playing with, that's who we were practicing against, taking wins, losses from, and whether or not the scrims were in their favor, it's still hard to watch.
So going into that as well, like, eUnited was scrimming LG a lot, but eUnited was also winning the majority of the scrims from what I've heard from players on both teams. Also, another thing to take in mind is that scrims don't mean everything. What means the most is what you do on stage and what you do in an actual event. When I was on Eager last year, we lost like 90% of our scrims throughout the entire year. So eUnited can do this for sure, even if LG went down hard to energy yesterday.
That's true. eUnited could do this, but so could Obey Alliance. Let's take a look at Obey Alliance's roster.
Obey Alliance. Ataraxia. EmilZy. PrettyPriMe. CaptainTwig. Xaliea.
You know, we've seen a lot of classics today, or not today, but through the World Championships, something that we see time and time again. We've seen the Anubis pick, we've seen the Fenrir pick, and CaptainTwig has been around forever. SK Gaming, Fnatic, Obey, he is just as one of the family, right?
He's been to legitimately every single LAN, and I think his talent speaks for itself, and considering the fact that he's able to still qualify for each event, not only from his individual performance, but just based off of what he brings to his team.
And this year, he's had his best year yet, just playing so well throughout the entire season, playing with Maniac, doing extremely well, and also Xaliea.
Here we have the Obey Alliance versus Elevate game there. Elevate seemed to have a strong start with a 3 Guardian, 2 Hunter pick, but it wasn't enough. Obey Alliance beat them out 2-0, and that second game was such a stomp.
It's just crazy to think about as well, too, because Obey, even though they had some difficulties at the Super Regionals LAN, it was still evident that they had figured out Elevate's draft back then, and it became clear in their recent set, and it's just very easy to tell that this team is a team that does homework.
And one thing to keep in mind is that Super Regional was a month and a half ago, so the teams have a lot of time to come up with new strategies and also learn different things about the other teams. So it's hard to say what they're going to do based off of Super Regionals because there's so much of a gap between Super Regionals and Worlds. So everybody kind of brings out new things at Worlds, and it shows that Obey has some strategies ready. And I feel like they haven't showed much yet. I'm excited to see what they bring today.
Yeah, Obey Alliance, we saw them pick Osiris every time, Raijin as well. Very standard picks. Maybe the most unique thing was the Amir and Sobek coming out of them in game number 3.
Yeah, kind of like what they did in the first day. They put Osiris in the solo lane against the international team to try to mind game all the other North American and European teams, and then they put him in the jungle the next 2 games against Elevate. So I'm curious to see if they're going to pick Osiris again. It did pretty well for Twig, but for solo lane this tournament, it hasn't been doing very well.
One exciting factor for me about Obey's team is actually their coach, hi-rez. He is so great at just crafting all of these wacky compositions, and whether or not it's going to be something completely unexpected, you can kind of just anticipate Obey to be able to maneuver it almost perfectly.
hi-rez was the previous coach? No, he was on Cyclone GG.
He used to be the coach, yes, for Rival, or as they were back then, Cyclone GG, before transitioning over into Obey.
Could you imagine if it's a Rival versus Obey matchup? You got to feel a little proud of yourself for coaching both of those teams.
Alpha Jackal and hi-rez will get to have their own little mini boss battle with each other if that were to be the case.
The famous stare, he was doing it yesterday as well. Venenu loves doing that.
That's an intimidating stare.
Who blinked
He's
first?
keeping it on for a while. My goodness. Stop. Stop. Oh, blah. Ooh. All right, we are about to get into picks and bans, everyone, in just a moment here. eUnited versus Obey. Both teams having very young players. Do you feel that being young allows you to have quicker reaction time, or does it have a kind of a detriment?
It can work either way. I think the only down factor for it would be maybe having more nerves as compared to somebody who has been on this world stage or maybe just experienced more pressure.
Yeah, the only thing you could really say, obviously the reaction time is going to be a little bit better if you're younger or whatnot. All the studies show that, but the main thing is experience, and then also like age doesn't really matter because you can have experience at such a young age with games, especially like Smite. So I feel like a lot of these players have a lot of experience. Some of them have experience at the world stage, some of them have experience in other lands. But I think eUnited is ready for this, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
Definitely, speaking of experience, Ataraxia and PrettyPriMe have been together for 3 years. That synergy between the two of them is so important in their games.
You can't break that combo up. They've just been together for so long. It's almost similar to that whole Jeff Vera situation where I just can't imagine Prime without Ataraxia at this point. And even more so, just everybody else from Obey coming into the mix.
Yeah, there might be an argument if Ataraxia and Prime win this Worlds, they might be the most iconic duo over Bera and Jeff.
Whew. Man, that is a 6. I mean, look at that. Look at EmilZy. Just like I was saying, very young player. But as you were saying, even though this is his first SWC, he has been around for a while, and as a coach, I believe.
Yeah, he was a coach, and he was also a player on a team last year as well. So he's been around the block, and he has a lot of experience for not being at the world stage as well. But this is his first Worlds, and he's proved to be a really good support all year, pulling out signature picks like Hell, and also having a really good Sylvanas and Fafnir, which is kind of the meta.
Oh, those Sylvanas mix-ups with CaptainTwig was insane. I can't wait to see it again. And obviously, in the last set we saw, Sylvanas was a highly contested pick or ban.
Sylvanas and Ryzen were both really contested bans between at least Rival and NRG. I wouldn't be surprised to see Obey having some of the same favoritism towards those gods, considering that they're also part of the European region, and I'm almost certain that they've been scrimming amongst the other 3 teams that were at HRX.
Aurora, explain to me the main differences between EU and NA meta, at least from what we've seen in the scrims recently. Obviously, the meta can be changing over the last few months.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of ISIS out of the European teams, like Rival and Energy both play it. We haven't seen the NA teams really experience much ISIS in their games. Also, it was weird to me because Energy was playing a lot of Robin and Rival was banning it out, but I feel like Scream had a lot of Robin games played, and I feel like he was also playing them in Scrim, so I'm surprised that LG didn't ban it against Energy.
Yeah.
And Adapting had so much success against them. So I'm pretty sure that eUnited is going to really prioritize the Robin as well. And also, we've seen a ton of Ryzen, AMC, and Uller, just the hunters that are dominating.
Are we going to see a normal start there, the 1-2-2 start, or is it going to be 2-1-2 with eUnited?
Definitely the United start is going to be 2 in mid with their Hunter and Mage, and then they're going to have their support alone in the long lane, and then jungle solo. If they pick some weird pick, it could possibly be different start. If we see Terra, which PolarBearMike likes a lot, they can kind of switch it up and they could put their Hunter and Mage in the long lane, and they could put Terra in mid, block the wave in mid, or they could do it opposite as well.
All right, well, we're about to find out, everyone. Picks and bans are ready for the first game of eUnited versus Obey Alliance.
And kind of just piggybacking off of what Aurora said, PPM has also openly stated multiple times that he despises as a support player starting out in the mid lane. So I would be very surprised to actually see eUnited trying to make that sort of playstyle work out.
Loading in here right now. I can imagine this is probably going to be a very methodical picks and bans. We've seen some sets go back and forth very quickly with their bans. They know exactly what they want. But with eUnited and Obey, it actually seems to be going pretty quickly. Yeah,
the Sylvanas ban is no surprise to me because they saw it do so well in the last series. So they take that away right away from Obey because they know that Obey has been scrimming the European teams.
All right, very standard bans there. Raijin, Robin, Uller, Sylvanas. No surprises there.
Those are all really high-pressure picks as well, which is another primary reason because eUnited, very similar to what we've seen from teams all throughout HRX, are probably going to put a heavy focus onto that solo jungle side of the map, really wanting to ensure that they not only are able to secure their own buffs, but maybe even lock down the timers of Obey's jungle, see if they can press the advantage and look for some invades.
I'm definitely looking for an AMC here. It looks like they're going to go with the Cocoon first pick. Benji has been playing extremely well on this character. He likes to go the Mystical and the Sona Gaia if he gets a lead. I'm curious to see what he builds if the game isn't going so far in his favor.
Yeah, we did see him go Cocoon in game number 1 of eUnited versus the international team there. They're going Osiris for first pick of Obey.
We haven't seen the AMC yet. AMC is still up.
You know, as the tournament goes on, we start to realize that maybe Uller and AMC aren't that important. And we got Discordia coming out here, such burst.
One of the more fun aspects of competitive play is that it always just ends up going back to what picks are going to work better in a team's draft. And even though gods can be incredibly strong in the meta or strong individually, they might not necessarily benefit your team's composition in the best way. But
yeah,
there wasn't much of a way possible.
He's very strong. I feel like it's almost impossible that we wouldn't see him in top 3 from either team.
Oh yeah, he would definitely have been banned out next round.
Yeah, and then also one thing I like about AMC on United side, PandaCat kind of started the trend. We saw Barra do it in his games as well when he played AMC, is he goes those Traveler shoes to get the extra gold and have the movement speed to rotate between back camps and coming back to lane to farm, and then even making the rotations over to mid lane.
And with his hives, he's going to be so fast.
Yeah, and also he's going to be regenerating a lot of health because the hives give health regen, and then the boots also give HP 5 passive when he's out of combat. So there's a lot of things going for the Traveler shoes on AMC.
Ooh, gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast. But not right now with Obey's third pick. Please, oh my gosh.
It'd be a little bit early, but I wouldn't be surprised.
No, because she keeps getting banned out. They need to pick
that. Is why.
Oh, I'm trying not to flip this table right now. I'm so excited. Hell is the last god I needed to see, and EmilZy is so good with her.
Yeah, no surprise here. EmilZy's had amazing performances with the health support. I've played it a lot myself, and I know how strong it is. It has gotten nerfed a little bit. The movement speed on the 3 isn't all the way there, but the cleanses are still very strong. The healing out of her 1 is still very strong.
How important CC
and she
is.
also has pen and protections for her team.
And that burst that she can do between her 3 and now her 1 explodes, the purging like you said, and it's a team speed boost. You get like a sprint for free.
For eUnited, though, what I really like about their draft is that they might have been anticipating Obey to immediately lean towards the hell in the top 3 so that they couldn't have it bend away from them in the 3rd and 4th. But Kakolan with that barbed spear, it is going to have some healing reduction applicable. And not only that, when he transforms, using that ability to just push the hell away from their teammates could possibly be really strong for eUnited here.
Obviously, you're going to have to ban Odin now. You do not want him to cage in Hell or Discordia.
Yeah, and at Super Regionals, we saw Scream have an amazing performance. And I believe it was Game 4 or Game 5 against LG in the finals where he got a double kill in the lane, and it basically won them the game off that. So Scream is a very good Odin player.
Waiting for the last ban here out of eUnited. It is going to be RTO getting rid of that cripple.
Don't have to worry about it, considering that Kakolan and Fafnir kind of rely on having those engagements with their jumps, that it'd be really annoying. And just dealing with RTO in general alongside of a Hell, those heavy sustained compositions are usually favorable in an HRX environment because sometimes the fights just keep going.
We got Hachiman locked in over on the side of Obey.
Very good choice for the Hunter. It's just a lot of free damage off his banner and his ultimate. The only way you can dodge his ultimate is if you LOS it. It's basically a locked-on target as long as you shoot the indicator in their direction. And I really like the banner as well. Just a lot of damage in lane, really good poke. But AMC has that clear on him in the early game, and they're going to be able to pressure wherever the Hachiman is at. Or they can kind of put the AMC in mid and pressure it that way as well.
You know, I've heard that Hell's really good against tanks, and it definitely seems like eUnited has decided to stay away from a very tanky composition. The Morgan going to be coming out, potentially hovering over in the mid lane.
It has to be Morgan for Venenu because he's just so great with this god. I mean, anytime he gets a chance to play it, he usually likes to bring it out, and especially to start things off against Obey, you can lean on that for your comfort pick style. The only concern would be it's kind of difficult because normally you want to try and pair this Morgan selection with another god to have 2 of the same of.
Yeah, Venenu is a really good Morgan player. He's one of the first NA players that kind of brought Morgan into his god pool. Herwin was another one that takes the name, and same with Baskin, but those 3 are kind of the ones that play Morgan a ton, and Venenu is very, very good at this Morgan. As we saw yesterday, he played very well against Black Dragons.
But why the hesitation? Why not lock it in?
Because the concern would be what's going to fit into the draft following up with that, because Morgan can be a very strong god, particularly if you get into the late game. She has bursts that can match Discordia, if not be better than due to the Imtis.
And there isn't also a lot of good transformations yet. We have the Osiris, which is a decent transformation, but there hasn't really been any assassin picks, so he kind of doesn't know what transformations he really has. And oh my god,
Speaking of assassins,
maybe.
We've had the dogs, you need to have the cats. Bastet coming through, the first time we are seeing her of this tournament.
This is a classic throwback Scream pick with the Bastet. It's a god that he loves bringing out, and although she doesn't have the same sort of split push potential as she used to when Scream was first debuting her, still a very strong god, can deal a lot of damage with that pounce and the Razor Claws.
Yeah, when I think of Scream, I think of Bastet and Arachne. I was kind of hoping we maybe see Arachne this tournament, but I don't think we will. But
probably not.
That's what Scream likes to play, those cats and spiders.
If you guys are on Obey, what would you do to finish out this comp? Maybe some tankiness, maybe some peel?
I would like to see some more frontline potential from Obey. There is still a possibility for another warrior to be added.
I feel like it's going to be a Guardian. Because they got the Hell, the Osiris is most likely going the jungle role with Twig, and Xaliea loves his Guardians, so I'm expecting a Guardian for sure.
Kuzenbo Guardian? Why not Xing Chen?
This has got to be a meme.
That's got to be a meme. There's no way.
Kuzenbo is very good against AMC. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they picked it, but I would definitely see a difference. Yeah, Sobek or Xing Chen is probably the safer option, and they're definitely really strong.
Plus, Sobek provides some of the initiation that Obey was kind of missing beforehand. Other than the Osiris ultimate, there's really nobody to get in the front lines of eUnited. So with the Sobek, having that pluck available now is going to make things just a little bit easier for Obey.
I want to go through the full prediction. How many sets, how many games is it going to be for eUnited versus Obey, just watching off this one?
I'm expecting 5.
Game 5, 3-2, in favor of who?
I can't call it which side just yet, but I think eUnited's at least going to get the first one.
I'm going with 4. I think whoever kind of gets off to a good start in the set, how eUnited shows up, they can pull it off. If Obey shows up here and Hell gets rolling, then I think Obey is going to take it in 4. But I think it could go either way as well. I'm excited to see what happens.
Everyone get ready for game number 1. It is eUnited versus Obey of the last semifinals of the day.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you to the crowd too. Are you guys all ready? Wow, that's really low.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're ready. They're just too amped up. They're thinking too hard about this Bastet pick. You know why we're seeing that from Screammmmm, and I'm kind of with them, to be honest.
Well, Bastet's really good against Discordia in my eyes. You know, be able to get in there,
sure,
apply the bleed, jump back out again.
Also does do a good job with that Brawler's Beat Stick, applying anti-heal to that Hell. It's going to tick on there a long time with that Razor Whip. It also is good burst that Venenu can transform into, but it's still not the transformation target that I would have wanted as a Morrigan player. I mean, I think something like Ratatosker would have fit so well into this draft. And I'm very surprised that eUnited decided to go a different way. eUnited kind of giving up the idea of pressure in the early game. And Obey has to some degree as well, but even with Obey going Guardian solos for the most of this tournament, CaptainTwig has been all over enemy speed buffs, enemy back camps. It's been consistently invading on that enemy jungle. So even though Xaliea is playing his signature Sobek, I really think Obey might try and play this early game aggressively on the right-hand side of the map.
No surprise to see EmilZy starting off with the sprint this game as well. Up against a Bastet, when those cats are dropped, they do consistently slow, and sprint can cancel that out.
Look at this. Look at where PBM is. He has a fully upgraded Horrific Emblem, and he's just lurking around the backside of the mid lane right here.
He spent the extra 500 gold. Let's find out how that goes. PolarBearMike coming in, looking towards Prime. Hammer time, blood shine, and Venenu will take first blood for North America in this second semi-final.
And they got both sets of beads as well. Prime dies, still uses the beads. Twig has to use his in response to the Horrific, but look what Obey do. They immediately head towards eUnited's red buff. There's a good fight for Obey. They're level 2, while eUnited's only level 1.
EmilZy and Ataraxia looking to continue the pressure. PandaCat and PolarBearMike dealing damage, but mainly just to slow them down on trying to take this red buff and force back Obey Alliance to the left-hand side of the map.
And Venenu was forced to back there, but he was able to actually pick up full cooldown boots off that start. Or no, the Ragnus Mask is what he went with. Yeah, he went
straight
right
back
away
after first blood, and you get 400 gold for that, so invest in the Ragnus Mask. We saw that come out of Yamin earlier on today, but Obey controlling this left-hand side so much.
Obey is so good. I mean, what are the chances they've seen that exact start happen to them in their preparation coming up to Worlds? Slim to none, right?
Exactly.
And they immediately punish it perfectly. They put so much pressure on that left-hand side of the map. Venenu having to back is a big deal, but...
Hello. Bit of pressure from Obey here under the tier 1 tower. Mainly focused onto PolarBearMike, but he's got enough to sustain with watches and a couple of health potions. The poke is good, however, for Obey to continue to look towards that purple potentially. But here we go in mid.
Scream gonna get that sprint pop, putting damage on a PrettyPriMe. That dot is gonna do it. Benji gets the second.
And that's what I expected with this Bastet pick against the Discordia. Discordia's mobility, not the greatest in the game. You can hide in a cloud, but that bleed will still connect with you while you are hidden inside.
And even though Obey did such a good job of punishing eUnited on the left-hand side of the map, it opened up the entire right side. Scream was able to get a ton of farm over there. He's sitting at level 5. CaptainTwig just now ticking over to level 4. So eUnited anticipates what Obey is going to do to shut down their start and puts pressure on the opposite side of the map. I was here fangirling over how good Obey is, but eUnited was ready for him.
Well, they were on the right-hand side doing their own little business, and it was coming up big for them too. Take into account that kill went to Benji on the Kukulkan, which will allow him to hit level 5 a little bit quicker, slow down anything that Xaliea could potentially do to him. But not only that, take into account how far he rotated to mid to pick up that kill.
It's certainly worth it because he didn't lose a lot on that right-hand side of the map, especially with how eUnited had already cleared it out before that engagement in the mid lane. Scream's going to be able to back and get a full set of boots here after eUnited heads over and picks up these fire elementals. And that's such a big power spike for Bastet. This is is the part of the game where Bastet is at her weakest, when she doesn't get a lot of damage off of the burst of the pounce into the Razor Whip. Even starting at these boots, PrettyPrime's gonna really feel the poke damage that Scream's gonna be able to apply.
I mean, Discordia is a mage after all, very squishy too, so gonna have to be very careful with position and invested in beads, take that into account. Didn't go with the Aegis to try and prevent some of the damage. Went for the beads option, which means Bastet could just keep going back time and time again.
As did CaptainTwig. Kind of surprised that we see Twig go for beads. I was kind of expecting a sprint out of him just to try and counteract the slow. Even an Aegis could have really done the job, but both PrettyPrime and CaptainTwig really respecting PolarBearMike with this relic selection.
And that was the question. I was like, what's the beads for? I mean, Benji ultimate on Cucullin, and then what? Mike or Venenu stun? That's about it.
Mike is 2 for 2 on the stuns we've seen so far. He always brags about his hammer accuracy rate, and so far it's held up, and clearly Obey seems to think it's worthy of the beads pickup.
Well, I think it's been a long time since I've seen an upgraded relic. If I go all the way back before they were called relics, I saw that in Season 1 days, but that's the first time I believe I've seen that happen in the mid lane there at the beginning, which set eUnited off to a fantastic start to this game that Obey had been trying to answer back.
And Scream actually didn't get a chance to finish off his full boots, surprisingly enough, so still not quite as strong as he would like to be at this stage, just matching where CaptainTwig is on that Osiris, and that matchup is going to be very intriguing to watch between the Bastet and the Osiris. Where is each jungler going to look to put their pressure? I imagine CaptainTwig is going to try and put at least a little bit of pressure on the left-hand side of the map come the mid-game, because PandaCat is immobile enough to get chased down by that Osiris. But historically, throughout this tournament from Obey Alliance, it's really been Twig hanging out with Xaliea for the most part on the right-hand side, making sure his Guardian solo laner can get enough pressure to get into the mid-game.
And EmilZy pressured straight away, but the sprint was instantly popped. There's the apple out of Prime, and that's mainly just to try and deter any continued aggression out of eUnited. But a relic for the ultimate, not too bad.
And 2 relics, because Mike stepped up and hammered down PrettyPrime, and he had to use the purification beads as well, despite the lack of follow-up potential from eUnited. So you know that EU support is going to be yelling that out, saying that PrettyPrime is the good target right now, because not only did he use his purification beads, but his ultimate down as well.
Like his nice little hammer there as the rest of his team backs to base. Left-hand side, Ataraxia did return to base earlier on, finish off his boots, whereas PandaCat just got back from base himself. Gone for the Talaria, we've seen a little bit more often, specifically on this Amusin card.
Really, PandaCat is the biggest proponent of this, and that's just to use the passive for when he's rotating between lanes. Not great in the 1v1 scenario. You're only getting 30 gold every 90 seconds from hitting your lane opponent, but with EmilZy probably spending a little bit of time over there, you could try and pick that up as well.
Xalia's under pressure here. They might look to die. Benji's thinking about it, and he'll just do enough to get Scream the credit for the kill. eUnited 3-0 in less than 6 minutes.
I really like this idea as PandaCat's getting dove on this left-hand side. Purification beads used in response to that mounted archery, and Obey say that's all we really wanted and back up underneath to the safety of outside the tower. But this is a great win condition for eUnited. Get Benji, your star solo laner, way ahead of the Guardian Xaliea, then get him that momentum to try and come into the mid game and really make life difficult.
Still diving the right-hand side, looking for CaptainTwig, who has to ult away. Screams the little kitties are going to give chase, but as soon as they see that crocodile, they will back away. But this has bought enough time, at least, for eUnited to get the first objective of the game, at least in terms of structures.
The little dots rotating around the Bastet, that was her most recent change. Now whenever her cats die in that ultimate, she gets a power buff, and a pretty substantial one at that. So Scream taking advantage of that just a little bit and finishing off that mid tower. I love this dedicated pressure from eUnited.
Careful, Obey, careful, because Venenu's here. Xalia's tail whip is good, but Twig has no ultimate. Still trying to get away his Twig, and the kitties will be enough, I believe, to take him down. Venenu credited for the kill, turning into his jungler.
I love this idea. I mean, we're all thinking Ratatosker for the transformation target, myself included, but Bastet is great at the early pressure, which is what Rat would have provided.
Benji just going to zone away Obey from their own speed. It's me on the right-hand side. Xaliea gets isolated again. Venenu is doing work, and the scariest thing about that is he's got 4 stacks on the Rangdars in under 10 minutes.
3 kills already. I love that back to pick up the early Rangdas. Now, this is the problem for eUnited, is that Ataraxia has been unchecked so far. He's up 2 levels over PandaCat right now, and Panda's pretty used to the way that eUnited likes to play around the right side of the map. He doesn't get a lot of help in the early game, and then he still is almost always able to step up in the late game and be that carry. Ataraxia not usually called on to be the hard carry for Obey, but this is one of those scenarios where all of Obey is going to turn to their veteran hunter and say, we need you to step up and have a big game here because mid and the right side is way behind.
But let's be honest, if you're an Obey Alliance fan, you've seen them in these positions before, and they've come back into it. When it gets to the team fight stage, they really shine there. The difference is, can eUnited continue to keep the pressure on and keep their foot on their throat the entire game? Because Obey, when they get to team fights, they can turn it, specifically with the amount of sustain they have with this Hell.
Absolutely, and Hell being down, 3,000 gold pre-9 minutes, of course not where she'd want to be, but it's certainly not a position where you can't come back as Twig gets hit by that stun. Big damage, nice cleanse though, coming out of EmilZy.
Really good cleanse.
Here comes Screammmmm on the back.
Bastard on the back with the bleed and the declaw. Kiddies are dropped. Run, Twig, run. The ice heal coming out there as well from EmilZy over the wall as Amuse and Cobb joins the fray. PandaCat a little bit too low on mana to get involved, but I tell you what, it was a heads up from EmilZy through that wall to find that heal.
Venenu doesn't have his ult, but PolarBearMike does, and he's going to go straight up into it. PandaCat, no mana. Look at where Benji is. He's handling everybody.
Benji against the world on that backside. Then he gets a kill. How
my God!
He's a man mountain. Juking all these abilities through.
No way.
Finally, he falls down. The rest of the team will pick up Xaliea and trade, however, 2 for 1. But Obey get on the board.
You know what? Xaliea does almost as good of a job as Benji does. He doesn't end up getting a kill, but he falls and stops eUnited from doing that Gold Fury. Benji zoning 4 members, though. I mean, this is why you give your solo laner a massive lead. He's only got 2 items, but my man's level 11 and 400 health from Stone of Gaia. It takes a long time to chew through all that damage.
Benji's been around a long time, played under a couple of different names throughout his career, but the one thing he's always been around, let's have a look at that play anyway, just to see exactly how he went down. Just ults. Everyone's trying to deal with him. He's just too tanky. He's level 11. Everyone around him is like level 9, level 10, and he doesn't care. All he's doing here on the exit is trying to buy as much time as possible. He already found the win with the kill.
Probably feels like he did whenever he was playing on this stage during Season 2 in the finals, where solo laners were big all the time. Not usually the case these days, but when Scream is coming over to your lane, helping you out, you've got constant pressure on that right-hand side. Speed buff invade went eUnited's way last time as well. All of that leads to the 4-man dive by Benji.
Keep an eye on Venenu. He has 4 kills already. Level 11 at the moment, and the team really focused on the speed buff at the moment. They will take that down, but now Venenu under pressure has to turn into Bastet to try and get away. Lord of the Afterlife used by Twig defensively to disengage, as does Xaliea, but the damage has been done in terms of the speed buff being stolen.
Exactly, speed buff already down in eUnited's favor. Now, Obey Alliance looking to re-engage here because Ataraxia has joined this fight where PandaCat has not. So a potential for a Portal Demon pull here by Obey Alliance, but decided they don't want to even go for that. So eUnited, not only do they get that buff and waste the time of most of Obey that they expected to, but it's Ataraxia whose lead he had, that was the lead for Obey, that was free farm for PandaCat. He's able to push a couple waves in, he gets his red buff without any sort of contest. And I like this idea by Ataraxia. While it doesn't end up paying off, whenever you get a lead in a lane, you've got a couple options. If you don't feel like you could find solo kills and make plays in your own lane, getting a 300 gold lead, you can kind of say to yourself, all right, now I can give up a wave and a half in order to try and take this lead elsewhere on the map. That's what Obey Alliance Hunters tried to do, but just wasn't able to come up with anything.
Well, that's what Benji's been doing from the solo lane too.
Yeah, great
United
point.
now, and pressuring onto the tier 2 means he can rotate into the jungle, looking to cause issues for people like Twig, like he's doing right now. The rest of his team are just able to continue to farm up. Level 12 starting to be reached for most, if not all, of the members of eUnited, meaning they do have a small advantage with those secondary relics.
Without a doubt, and Benji really feels unkillable at this point in the game. That's why he's able to push that wave all the way up to the tier 2 and then rotate and deal some poke damage to CaptainTwig. Once PrettyPriMe hits level 12, gets the Aegis, he'll have a lot more survivability, and finishing off pen boots is going to be absolutely key. I mean, Prime has a decent amount of damage with a Doomor, but no pen at all. Meanwhile, Venenu he's already got a Spear of Desolation done.
Technically, 6 cats could be available at any given time to try and take objectives with Venenu, playing the Morrigan, but Goldfury down to half. Benji comes in to say hello once more, and it's CaptainTwig surrounded, but Ataraxia's pony's going to run away, but the bleed damage is just too much for Ataraxia to survive, and now it's a 4v5. Goldfury once again under threat.
EmilZy knows he can't get in there. Twig can't get away from Venenu, who's going to chase him down and get a couple more stacks on that Rang. Does 9 now, only 1 more until it's all done.
North America's last hope isn't so unlikely as a lot of people may have had coming into this one. Not only have they got the gold, now in position once more, the ward coverage has been so solid, they can look towards the Portal Demon, and only Xaliea, realistically, can try and stop this.
But he has, even though he has his ultimate, he's only level 11, he's going to give it up. eUnited get another objective, and in just 13.5 minutes, they're up 5,000 gold.
Was this all that first blood?
It's not all about first blood.
Was it all about PolarBearMike's play at the start?
It was more about the second blood onto PrettyPriMe, where Benji rotates in and starts getting the pressure. It's how Obey did what seemed like the optimal way to punish that start from eUnited, but how eUnited was ready for it on that right-hand side. For me, it's just been giving the lead to Benji and Scream and letting them run away with it.
Benji hanging around the blue buff camp. He has pulled it. They will look for it, but mainly they can find a cheeky pick. They'll go for that too, but Benji gets the blue, given over to himself as well for a bit more regeneration and some cooldown reduction. Even though it's mana, it does convert on Kakulin.
Yeah, not in need of any mana bars as Kakulin, and that's why Venenu, I think, tried to steal that away from him. But, you know, solo laners, once they get a buff, they feel like they've earned it.
Speaking of Venenu, 1 stack away from a completed Rangdars, which means he's going to get himself some lovely penetration to add to the rest of it. And when you look at the amount of penetration he's already got with the build he's going for, this could be a tricky situation for a lot of the players in Obey to try and deal with the burst that could come out from this Morrigan.
Plus, it's extra movement speed, it's extra CDR. I mean, it's everything you could ever want on the Morrigan outside of power, but you still don't really need power as the Morrigan at this stage of the game because you're relying on the power built by whoever you're transforming into. So far, it's been Scream, and it probably will be Scream for the majority of this game. This Morrigan pick has worked out beautifully for eUnited, and the Bastet is such an intelligent selection along with it. I mean, it's taking what a lot of teams think is good, you know, Morrigan plus Assassin with early game ult, and then kind of putting your own personal spin on it. It's taking Scream's own God pool and really using it to maximize what you can do with this pick. I love the flavor that eUnited has with it, and it's clearly worked out beautifully.
Well, it's just under 6,000, or just over 6,000 gold lead here for eUnited, and Tier 1 Tower is the only one that's gone down on the right-hand side, but that middle one for Obey has been dropped below half health now. Obey just happy to have to just give up most of their jungle, most of the position on the map, because eUnited have dominated in terms of ward coverage too, which has limited their options of rotations.
This is the time where Obey really needs to just pump the brakes and hang on. Let eUnited take their own buffs, try and be there to defend your own, and wait for this next Gold Fury respawn. It's too early for eUnited to start trying to do Fire Giant. It's probably too early for them to even group up as 5,
Benji
look for a tower.
In the mid lane, looking for pressure again, trying to crest on 2, and he's bleeding away, but will survive this burst combination this time round. EmilZy should be able to resustain him back up. But this tower isn't healthy enough really for Obey to be quite happy about the position they're in.
And this is what I love. eUnited knows that Obey just wants to slow the pace of the game down and wait, so they group up as 5, and look at where Scream is coming around the back, looking for that cheeky flank.
And will he go for the pounce of the bleed? Well, it's going to be the declaw first of all, then the bleed, then the killies, then the pounce. In and out, and it will prevent enough opportunity here for eUnited to take a free Tier 1 tower in the mid lane and fall back once more. Small win once again for eUnited.
Man, Scream doing so much damage right now, and just his presence alone and the way that he played that team fight really forces all of Obey back. The burst damage from Bastet, everyone talks about her bleed, and deservedly so, Razor Whip, one of her best abilities. But man, the burst damage from the Razor Whip and the pounce, you know, it's just so strong that you can really force everybody back quickly and not worry as much about that Hell Heal. And of course, he went for the Brawler's Beatstick right away. Very intelligent by Scream. You cannot afford to wait to pick up anti-heal in a matchup like this, because if you pick it up 3rd or 4th, it's often too late.
Looked like go time for a second from Obey. They were really trying to chase down eUnited after taking the Tier 1 tower on this left-hand side, but eUnited playing the objectives more than anything else. After getting a couple of kills, they really have just had full focus on Structure 1, right-hand side. Structure 2, mid lane. Gold Fury, Portal Demon, left-hand side.
Exactly, and that's the adaptation of North America during this Season 4. It used to, I mean, they still like to just hold, you know, just run at you all the time and try and face tank everything. Yeah, that's kind of the NA Smork style. But eUnited is really, just like with this Morgan Bastet pick, has taken what's good in what good teams do, and then they've kind of put their own personal spin on it. Instead of waiting around and playing objectives at a little bit later, they say, why don't we just get our solo laners super far ahead on a carry warrior and then focus on the objectives, and they've done that beautifully so far in this game. Gold Fury having respawn is exactly where eUnited is going.
And look at the experience difference between the two. You can see it at the bottom, level 15 for Kukulkan and Bastet 16, Morrigan 14, whereas it's 13, 13, 13 for Sobek, Osiris, and Discordia. So at the moment, this experience is really coming into play in terms of health, not even counting the gold, which is being looked at right now too.
Gold Fury getting very low. CaptainTwig in, he's gonna use that tether and try and steal it away. Xaliea forced back, and that means Gold Fury goes down for eUnited. Scream wasn't even here this entire fight. No. He was split pushing on the right-hand side and forced Ataraxia, who's the only member of Obey to be even close to even with his lane opponent, over to his side of the map, taking him away from that engagement. Very smart.
In fairness, though, I mean, Bastet's the most dangerous thing on this map right now as it stands in terms of levels, and arguably been causing the most problems. So sending your best member, your furthest ahead member to defend makes sense. But it means you can't defend.
That makes sense, and it makes sense almost for Obey to try and engage whenever Scream, the person who's doing so much work, isn't there. But remember, Venenu can just transform into Scream and take that level advantage, take those items that he has, and be there impacting the fight at the same time while the real Scream is split pushing. It's what makes the Morgan so dangerous.
Okay, I thought I just saw PandaCat pulling it. Yes, they have, but Obey Alliance are here. Paul Demon on their side. PrettyPrime's on the left, not involved in this fight just yet. As PolarBearMike will ult as Bastet jumps in too. Scream does get hit by the tail whip, however, and then the lurk in the waters from Xaliea will get him out of the danger zone for now. Back to the Fire Giant, however, eUnited do go.
PrettyPrime pushing that left-hand side. There's a 5v4 in eUnited's favor, but 3 of their ultimates are now down, and PBM's the middle of his. Benji zoning 3 again. This time can't quite find the kill. As Fire Giant drops below 3K.
Oh, Fire Giant still not finished by eUnited. They had the opportunity, but now Obey are back in it. Venenu's low, but Scream's pounce is good. Venenu falls down to Xaliea in trade, and now Xaliea surrounded too. The damage from PandaCat and Benji combined. EmilZy, he always lives your life depending on it, but it won't be enough to stop the onslaught of the North Americans.
Ataraxia on the run, trying to get underneath that tier 2 tower. Benji goes underneath it and finds him. Lucky number 13 for eUnited as Benji and PandaCat head back towards fire.
Hey, at least at the end of the day, Prime did get some much needed farm. He didn't get the tier 2 tower though, which when you think about it, it would have been potentially okay, that situation, if they got the tier 2. But the fact they didn't makes it even worse. And PolarBearMike is chasing him all the way back to his own tier 2 in the mid lane.
Absolutely. PBM's help not really needed on this FG. PandaCat and Benji, the 2 longtime teammates, are able to bring this one down basically all by themselves.
Arguably the most interesting team has been eUnited, this split at least, through 4. I mean, in the summer, these guys kind of came together, and now it's all started to click that they are now able to potentially really make a run against the Europeans who have dominated, realistically, competition, international competition on the main stage.
They look fantastic. They really do. They're up 10 kills right now on Obey Alliance and nearly 10,000 gold on top of that. That last fight went fairly well for Obey. They brought down Venenu pretty early on. Scream got killed by Ataraxia. But the problem is for Obey is that's a fight where they still ended up losing, but they were able to fight back. But that's when eUnited's juggling Fire Giant, trying to keep that. They took a lot of damage from that objective and still managed to win that team fight in the end. Next time eUnited is engaging onto Obey Alliance, there's not going to be a Fire Giant there to help Obey. At best, you've got a Tower or a Phoenix, but neither of those are quite as threatening as the FG.
And I think that's one of the issues I do see in this game now, is that Obey are almost at that point where it's like, hey, we might just have to start thinking about game 2 because eUnited are on the verge of almost putting this out of reach in terms of the golden experience.
I don't know if I'm thinking about game 2 quite yet. If I'm okay, you've got enough time in between games that you can kind of take your time and wait it out. Look, Rival made an incredible comeback up against Energy. We've seen incredible comebacks during this meta at Super Regionals, again by Rival. So maybe if your name's Rival, you don't have to start thinking about game 2. Everyone else should. I don't know. It's certainly looking grim for Obey Alliance, but man, their late game is so good between Discordia
Does it look like they're going to get there?
That's the worry. But you really, when you've got this strong of a late game composition, even when you're down by this much, you got to have some sort of faith that eUnited's going to mess up. They're going to overextend. They're going to not respect the damage that Prime or Ataraxia is going to be putting out. You can't really give a... Look, if Obey is playing a bunch of early game gods, I'm totally with you. But this composition was never really designed to get ahead in the early game. It was never the plan to get this far behind, but still a possibility that Obey has some life.
Do love the fact PolarBearMike has upgraded his sprint as well to make sure the whole team can just continue to swing auto attacks time and time again, and also give his whole team haste. That's going to be so beneficial for the likes of PandaCat, even for Scream and Benji. It will make a big difference.
Oh, absolutely, and Venenu as well. Whenever he transforms into whoever he wants to transform into, even as the base Morrigan, you have a lot of auto attack damage with that auto attack chain doing % health off of that third hit. So have an upgraded sprint, one of the strongest relics in the game.
The one underlying thing that people haven't spoken about just yet, or we haven't at least, is the amount of sentry wards that eUnited have placed this game. The minimap is littered with them right now, which means that every member is involved in that over and over again, going back, buying sentries, causing problems. So Phoenix in the mid lane being focused, as is Xaliea on the left-hand side by Scream. Scream's drawing enough attention to allow United to pressure the mid a little bit better.
Did cost Scream his ultimate and his purification beads, though, as Benji gonna find the root on a CaptainTwig. Mid Phoenix down to about half HP. Ataraxia gets stunned, but a big strife coming out of PrettyPriMe forces the carries back.
Xalia's gonna chase a little bit, but PolarBearMike gonna zone himself. Now with the pressure, in we go again, and PolarBearMike and Xaliea is annihilated. The apple will not keep eUnited at bay, as Twig has to walk defensively and Prime's on the one from Benji. The Phoenix in mid falls down, and eUnited swing to the left-hand side.
Just so much damage from eUnited now. This is where you can really feel the advantage in items and levels as Twig gets stunned again. The bleed should do it. Scream gets another one.
Full penetration build coming out from that basket too, which is just meaning they're like paper at this stage. They've not got the levels, they've not really got the items to stay involved in that, and it's forcing them back every time. You may have sustain, but if there's nothing to heal, you can't heal.
Absolutely. That's where the burst comes in PolarBearMike with these hammers has been absolutely lights out. He's been knocking them down time after time. And Fafnir there's a reason he's been top pick, top ban basically all year. It's because that hammer is hard to hit, but whenever you do connect, it ends up paying off huge.
Well, I got to speak earlier on this tournament about Venenu in the mid lane too. Like, a lot of people have been saying he's arguably one of the best, if not the best, mid lane in scrims in North America, but he's never really shown it overall throughout the year. He's never really stepped up, and it really shows his Morrigan play. In my opinion, right now, he's probably arguably the best in the world.
I mean, he's killing it, no doubt about it. He has been since he joined this roster, and what a journey it's been for Venenu. I mean, keep in mind, before last year's Worlds, he gets dropped from Allegiance, and they make all those roster changes. He then watches that Allegiance roster go to Worlds. They didn't have the best showing, but they still get to play on this stage. He works his way up, plays with that Oxygen Supremacy team during the spring. He's been on the come up all year long. This role swap to mid has worked out better than you could ever really state. You can't overstate how well he's played in mid and how much of an impact he's made on this eUnited team.
And the stories of eUnited, when you think about it, PolarBearMike himself started his career on an eager team that he got replaced on as time went on when they didn't do so well. Found himself looking for a new home. Eventually meets up with Benji, Scream and PandaCat, bringing along Venenu, and now we've got this team that is taking it to Obey.
A lot of new faces at the World Championships for this eUnited roster, and you couldn't tell me. I mean, you really, it's so hard to tell that these guys haven't been here before. PBM looks unshaken. Venenu's played out of his mind. Scream as well. I mean, these are guys who haven't played on the world stage before, and they're absolutely killing it on their first time.
Well, they're unshook right now as Scream from the left-hand side will bring those fire minions in. The Phoenix on the right has already fallen as Benji zones them all away. already. PrettyPriMe had to use the apple defensively to buy himself a moment's notice. And with PolarBearMike turning into a dragon, he will roar his way in to Obey's base and look to end this game. Can Obey hold?
Big damage on the PBM. Benji doing plenty of his own though. Twig forced back at the Titan falling low. eUnited take game one.
Clean, and look at Mike. Look at him. He wants this so bad, and you can feel the boys of eUnited have showed up. North America score first blood.
Obey Alliance got to go back to the drawing board now. Clearly not prepared for how much pressure eUnited was going to put on the right-hand side of the map. But Obey historically has been great at making adjustments.
Definitely.
They usually have something left in the pocket. Just because eUnited looked that good in game one, it doesn't stop Obey from looking equally good in game two.
Well, while these guys move into the back to have a quick word with each other and work out what the plan for game two is, we're going to do the same and throw it to Kelly and the analysts on the desk.
Thank you so much, Hendu. And it's just like Agro said, Obey has to go back to the drawing board. They got to figure out their picks and bans because that's really where they lost the game.
It was just the lack of initiation from Obey. There wasn't really any way that they could have tried to handle all the pressure that eUnited was applying on the solo side. And it was also pretty expected for eUnited to focus on that particular side of the map, considering there has been so much contest over the speed and blue buffs, and Sobek against Kakolin and Bastet, that's a lot of damage early on.
Well, the problem was that Sobek got behind in the early game, and he was going to be the main source of initiation for Obey. So it was kind of like the Screammmmm and Benji show at the start of the game, and then as it transitioned into the mid-game fights, it was like Benji and Venenu doing work.
Even the start of that game, Venenu killed PrettyPriMe in a 3-man rotation, and then Benji killed PrettyPriMe again. PrettyPriMe was 0-2 by the 2-minute mark.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Venenu had an awesome game, turning to Bastet on the majority of his transformations, putting out cats, as Taco was saying off cast. 6 cats is a ton of damage, 2 bleeds as well, a ton of slows coming out to just so many options that eUnited has right now.
So why focus mid on PrettyPriMe was because Discordia is just easier to lock down. Why not focus solo lane at the start?
Discordia is just so much more punishable during the early phases that it's a lot easier to just track her down before she can get to that mid-late game stride where she's not unstoppable, but incredibly annoying to deal with because of the madness effect if you get caught in her strife, and then it just does so much damage in general. She's got a lot of decent bursts.
Yeah, mages are just really easy to punish in the early game as well. Hell didn't have her cleanse yet because she was still level 1. Or I think she just got level 2 when they ganked her, but there's just not a lot of options that PrettyPriMe had to get out of there because he only had 1 relic at that point, and they just had a lot of damage between Venenu and Mike with his hammer stun.
I mean, it hurts me to say this, but probably not going to see Hell next game.
I wouldn't say that
really?
We're not going to see Hell. I could potentially see Obey trying to run it back if eUnited doesn't look to take it away, because why would eUnited worry about it when their composition and their playstyle already dealt with it?
We got Scream here ganking Sobek, and this is just what I'm talking about at the start. It was kind of like the Scream and Benji show in the early game that set the pace of the entire game, and then it kind of transitioned into Scream, Benji, and Venenu just taking over this game in these Gold Fury fights.
Benji was winning 1v4s as Kakolin. It was crazy, the amount of pressure he had.
And that's the thing. If EmilZy were to shift away from the Hell, it would be primarily because Obey is just going to be looking for having more of a front line than what they had in that game 1. That's a really rough time, because if you're trying to rely on Sobek as a sole form of initiation, it'll be difficult for him. After he plucks, he's just so susceptible to the damage.
Yeah, but they have the health for the cleanse to get him out of there. Same with the movement speed and the healing. So I feel like EmilZy played really, really well, and I don't think the Hell was the issue. I think it was kind of how they played the early game and what they let Sobek get behind really far at the start of the game.
So what do they do now to change Obey?
I think they just need to reassure their starts and kind of scout better and not get thrown off by an early gank in mid, and then also not let the re-gank happen and then die again that early, because PrettyPriMe had 2 quick deaths that game.
Wasn't that second death in between the first and second tower? You never expect those, and you're not going to buy wards at the 1-minute mark to place back in your Harpies.
Well, they could have stopped the first death pretty easily if they kind of just scouted out early game and kind of called the rotations and known where the support was.
Rotations is the name of the game here. One thing I want to talk about beyond that, though, is the item builds we saw. Solobek going Watchers.
Yeah, Watchers is pretty interesting on Sobek and solo because he's going to be last hitting with, or he's not going to be last hitting with his jungler over there a lot of the time. But he kind of got left on by himself, and he kind of got left out to dry. And he had Watcher's Gift, not Vamp Shot or Vanguard, so he was kind of behind there because of that as well.
I can justify the Watchers because if he was expecting to be left alone and knowing that the creep waves are going to be pushing underneath his tower, at least he's not losing as much gold as he would have been.
Yeah, I like that a little bit, but the problem is with that is that he loses physical protection on his item. Vamp Shot gives a ton of physical protection. He also gets a lot more healing from Vamp Shot as well. And then if you go Vanguard, you have a lot more protection. The Watchers is really nice for staying under the tower, but I kind of feel like felt like he was going to have more of Twig in his lane at more moments of the game.
Why don't you think Twig was there? Was Twig focusing somewhere else?
He couldn't really afford to be there because once you have a Soul and Gossip to Sobek fall behind, and then you're also worrying about PrettyPriMe in the mid lane, so Twig's trying to show some face to try and mitigate some of that pressure on the map, and it's kind of just a lose-lose situation for him, and he gets sort of torn in between the two.
Yeah, he kind of got pulled all over the map, and Scream just kind of was wide open. He could kind of go wherever he wanted to. We saw that he was in mid lane a little bit. Benji even showed up in mid. He got that second kill on to Prime, and then he went right back over to solo lane, and they killed Xaliea as well, and they just had a ton of pressure off that, and they kind of set the entire pace of the game, and eUnited ran away with it.
Yeah, you know, we were talking earlier that a lot of people have kind of been looking down on Obey, and that they were definitely a forefront to be like faced with. But going into this game and looking at game number 1, they looked really weak.
It's just one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised if that was just Obey trying something out, kind of just testing the water, seeing what eUnited was going to bring against them initially, and then looking to make adjustments wherever necessary. That's probably one of the best parts about Obey and their coach Hazer, is that that's what he tends to do for them more often than not, is just build a draft that's going to make up for any losses previously.
Yes.